What? You guys said you wanted more beginner bike content, right? Okay, I know this is the exodia of motorcycling, the big kahuna, the royal flush, the end of the conversation when it comes to fast motorcycles. This is the Kawasaki H2, and it's my new personal motorcycle. Yes, I bought this thing. It's not a giveaway bike. It's not a loaner bike. I did not beg, borrow, or steal to get this thing. I paid the finest and crispest dollar bills to acquire this motorcycle. So don't you guys think that it's a giveaway bike. But speaking of giveaways, I've got a bit of a surprise for you guys. Guys, the holiday season is upon us, and I wanted to do something special for my sweet little squids to show you just how much you mean to me. We got a crazy promotion going on right now at shop.yammynoob.co, and it starts with this, the Honda Hornet. You may be familiar with this Honda Hornet as it was the original Yammy Noob bike giveaway in 2019. We bought it back from the winter, we restored it, and now I'm giving it away again. That's right, for the first time ever, we're doing something special for Black Friday and Cyber Monday, but you only have 5 days to get entered to win this fantastic giveaway. I'm also gonna sweeten the pot and give you guys 10x entries for every dollar you spend over on shop.yammynoob.co for your chosen sweepstakes. There's no special promotional code, nothing you gotta do. Simply shop over at shop.yammynoob.co and you'll get automatically added for those 10x entries and entered for this giveaway. But it's Cyber Week, folks, and for this bike that started it all, I'm not stopping there. For the first time ever, we're doing second and third place prizes as well. So the first place winner will be getting this Honda Hornet delivered straight to their door, but second place is actually gonna win a trip out here to Austin to ride with us in the hills. Choose whatever Yammy Noob bike from the fleet you want, and we'll spend the whole day riding. Third place is gonna win a special limited edition poster signed by yours truly. We're never printing it again, and you're not gonna wanna miss it. It's a once-in-a-lifetime Yammy Noob event so historic, we are calling it the Cyber Week Giveaway Extravaganza. It's a very short window to get entered to win on this giveaway, so make sure you head over to shop.yammynoob.co and pick out something you like. You'll get 10x entries and automatically entered for this Honda Hornet giveaway. This bike belongs to the people, and I would be remiss to keep it in my stable. It belongs with you guys. If ever there's a giveaway you did not want to miss out on, it is this one. You only have 5 days to get entered to win. Head over to shop.yammynoob.co and don't delay. Now I'm sure you're asking, Yammy, you already own a turbo Hayabusa. Why did you buy a Kawasaki H2? Well, I'm glad you asked. So the reason I got the H2 is because, well, I had a ZH2 back in 2021 that I was really excited about. That motorcycle was so much fun to ride. I really loved the way it made this kind of supercharged instant torque. And honestly, the H2 is just kind of like a cheat code in terms of viewership. It's a bike that you literally just post up on the internet, and because of its kind of like holy grail status, everybody gets excited about it. In fact, both the times I've taken this bike out, 4 people each time came up to me and said, is that an H2? So it definitely elicits some type of awe-inspiring kind of magnetic quality. And this is a motorcycle that I also feel pretty magnetized by. And come on, let's be honest, the Turbo Hayabusa needed a friend. I'm not just gonna have one forced induction motorcycle in my garage. I clearly need 2 of them. But the other reason I bought this motorcycle is because I want to go over 200 miles per hour at a mile event. Now, I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about the specs on this machine later in the episode, so make sure you stick around for that. But this bike has already gone well over 200 miles per hour. But I wanted something that was already prepped and clean and kind of in good standing to go that fast. While I could do that on my Turbo Hayabusa very easily, it's just a little bit sketchy to do that on that motorcycle. You'd have to do a lot of prep work for the machine to get it really ready to go well over 200 miles per hour. So let me tell you a little bit about the specs on this particular vintage of H2, but before we do, let's get a sound clip. All right, folks, starting up the H2. Now, it's got a massive fuel pump, and it's tuned for E85, so cold starts are not its favorite. Let's see what it does. It's probably not gonna do it. Yep, it's gonna need a moment, folks. just happens every time. It's just like a Ducati. Yeah, you give it a little gas and it's gone. There we go. It just takes a while. All right, guys, so this H2, this particular vintage, is a 2015. That was actually the first year that they made this motorcycle. I picked it up off a guy who actually bought it brand new back in 2015, and he lovingly and meticulously maintained this motorcycle and modified it over the last 7 years as a mile event motorcycle. Now, there's quite a few bit of miles on this bike, so I know for sure he was cruising around town and having some fun, spooling some boost on this thing. But overall, this motorcycle was modified and maintained as a mile bike. So speaking of which, what did it do at the mile? What does it dyno? Let me know, Yam. Tell me all the crazy specs and power figures on this thing. Well, I would tell you the dyno figures, but the guy actually never dynoed it. I know, that's kind of crazy. All he cared about was the actual mile figures on this motorcycle. So I'll tell you that. This thing in the mile event did 220 miles per hour, and the previous owner said that it had more in it. I know, that is just face-meltingly fast. I'll see if if I can get this thing out to a mile event and what I'm going to be able to do with it. I'm a little bit lighter than the previous owner as far as I know, so maybe I'll be able to do 225 or 230. Wearing a full suit and airbag system and a nice big runway, I should be able to clock in some serious times. But the reason this motorcycle can do those things is because it's extensively modified. This bike features different supercharger gears, it's tuned for E85, it's got bigger injectors, an intercooler system. I mean, it's got so much done to it that I don't even have the entire list of parts and things that have gone into this motorcycle. But the most particular thing that's been done to this thing is the fact that it has an entirely new bottom end. Now, you might think, oh, that's because the previous owner wanted to really reinforce the motorcycle and make sure that it can handle a lot of the power that it's putting in. Well, there's actually kind of a funny story around that. So my new to me H2 actually melted a piston at 200 miles per hour, and I actually have the piston to prove it. So if you look over here, this is a normal H2 piston, right? Nice and clean. And then this is a melted H2 piston. Now, the reason this happened, that the previous owner told me, is that the H2's quick shifter system actually cuts ignition and fuel, which is a little bit different. Normally, it's just an ignition cut. So he said that on a really hard mile pull in 5th or 6th gear, yeah, he clicked up into 6th and it melted the piston. And that looks pretty bad. But the benefit of that is buying a new to me motorcycle is, as you can see, we have the bottom end and the top end of this motor sitting right here before us, meaning that that motorcycle actually has pretty much a brand new engine in it. New crankshaft, new bottom end, new cases even. I mean, everything is new, because if you look at this right inside of here, this is actually where it melted. That is not a smooth bore anymore. You will not be able to use this, unfortunately. So untold amounts of money went into this H2 to make sure that it was all set up and proper. But these are actually really cool now that I have them just sitting around the shop here. What do you guys think? Should I turn this into like a cool little art piece or something? Maybe a coffee table of some description could be kind of cool. But why don't we walk around the H2 and point out some of the other cool mods that are actually done to it? The first thing I thought when I saw the H2 in person, which actually this is the first H2 I've ever seen in person, is it's a very impressive looking motorcycle. It looks fast standing still. The photos and the videos don't really do it justice. It has incredible street presence. It has this really cool like chrome metallic paint, a lot of like ducts and features and stuff. It's a very, very impressive design that has honestly stood the test of time for the last 7 years since it came out. One of the coolest things about this H2 in particular, it has this cool Acropovich exhaust on it. This is actually from the H2R. I think the one that they sell, because it actually has a resonator on it. Previous owner was telling me that it's got the titanium headers obviously, but it's outputting to this Acropovich exhaust with the resonator. So it's not super loud, which is nice. Sometimes these bikes can get a little crazy, a little rowdy, and they just end up being a little bit too loud. One thing I didn't really notice when I was looking at photos of the H2 is that it has a single-sided swing arm, which is a really cool touch. It doesn't have the big center cap, though. It has these lug nuts, which if you don't really know anything about bikes, you're just like, oh yeah, it's lug nuts, it's whatever. But on a bike, it's a bit strange to see these. And yeah, it's just a funny little quirk about this bike. Looking over the rest of the stuff, you have this small oil catch can over here. This is obviously a modification that the previous owner did. This was to prevent oil being pulled into the intake. He said that there's a small amount of oil that can start coming in to the new air box that he has set up in here. You can see on this bike there's some gold foiling right here, a tube that leads out from somewhere. There's a lot done to this thing, and I actually really want to get this thing back out to the tuner and the builder and do like a comprehensive video walking through everything that's been done to it, just so that I know for my own knowledge too. One thing I want to point out too is this bike is safety wired. So this isn't a big deal to do on motorcycles. I've safety wired my own bikes before, but to have this bike already done and prepped for the mile, having it safety wired is pretty sweet. Now, if you look over here on the front of the H2, you can see the induction pipe right here. So the H2 actually has a block-off plate right here that isn't anything. And then over on this side is actually where the air comes in. So if you look at this bike head on, it's super aggressive and crazy looking because it has this kind of squinty-eyed look to it, and it's just pulling air through in there. It's a very menacing looking motorcycle. Obviously has the bespoke Kawasaki H2 logo. This is a logo that they've only used on very particular motorcycles throughout the years. They don't put that on everything. Looking over this machine here in the cockpit, I actually wanted to take a look. Now, in the cockpit, you have what's known as the dead man switch. So this is something that the previous owner told me is required for mile events. And what this is you actually hook this onto your suit, and if you come off the bike, as the name implies, pops off, kills the engine. It's a little bit safer, so that's why this is in place there. But in normal street riding, you just kind of put it on the key. You don't really need that for, you know, all your stupid highway pulls. The dash on the H2 is really cool too. It's also aged really well as the classic big sweeping analog tack right there. If you turn it on, you can see that the lights actually light up here for the rev counter. So I'll do that one more time so you guys can see at home. All those numbers right there is actually the RPMs. So you actually don't see the numbers when you're rolling around. You only see the number that you're actually at. You can see there's tons of different levels of traction control, wheelie control. This bike actually has a lot of features set in place for it to keep you safe, which is a big difference over something like the Turbo Hayabusa that literally has not even ABS on it, right? But yeah, overall, I think the design on this bike is just such a big win. This bike, as I mentioned, because the pistons melted, previous owner disconnected the quick shifter system. That's something I may put back on because it is a nice feature to have on a modern motorcycle, is that quick shifter. I kind of want to put that back on there personally. But yeah, looking over this machine, it's geared super, super long for the mile events, but the way it pulls and makes its power, you'd never guess it was geared so long. But yeah, you'll be cruising in fourth gear, you roll on the throttle, and you feel like you're just kind of creeping up the revs a little bit, but you're doing like 110, 120 miles per hour like that. So yeah, it's a very, very impressive motorcycle to ride. And you guys be sure to tune in tomorrow for my first ride impression on the H2. But let's wrap this video up, shall we? All right, guys, so I'm pretty excited about this H2, but I want to know what you think about it. What do you think we should do with it? Let me know down below in the comments what you think about this ridiculous motorcycle and all the sort of fun things that we should do with it. I'll tell you right now, we're definitely going to take it back to the builder. I want to dyno it. I want to learn everything about this motorcycle, take it out to the mile events, and then honestly, we have to obviously compare it against the Turbo Hayabusa. Don't know how we're going to do that just yet because both bikes are way too fast for public roads, but I'm sure we'll figure something out in terms of comparisons. Maybe we can get our esteemed and secret test rider, wink wink, to actually go and do some pulls on these bikes separately and then compare them side by side. That might be the only way we're going to be able to do it because there's no way you can race these two machines on the street and be safe. But yeah, thanks so much for watching today's video. Remember, go to the website on shop.emd.co and use that code HORNET and get yourself entered to win the Hornet along with all the other amazing giveaways and 10x on any sweepstakes you want. Catch you guys in the next one. See you later.
Yeah, it's really hard to get it wide open, honestly. That's terrifying. What the What the is this bike, dude?
watching in